Well, good evening to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. This is your midnight update on Hurricane Beryl. Just within the last hour or an hour ago, the National Hurricane Center upgraded Beryl to hurricane status with maximum sustained winds at 75 miles an hour, and expected to keep that hurricane status into landfall and possibly even a hurricane as far north as Interstate 10. It is a little bit questioned as far as if those winds can keep them sustained, but from the National Hurricane Center, again, it does look like that's what they're estimating. Here is what Beryl looks like right now. It's beginning to really absorb in all of that warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. There's very little that's helping it to begin to strengthen. We're very fortunate that there's not a lot of time left before this system is over land, and once that center of circulation gets over land, it cannot keep strengthening, and it will slowly begin to weaken and lose all of the threats that it's going to be bringing. But during the day on Sunday, we saw rounds of rain as several bands that were outstretched from the center moved through. That hit us hard when they came, but then it gave us some breaks. But then look what's happening now. There's just no breaks here. There's just intense rain after slightly less intense rain. It's just band after band, no breaks whatsoever. Lake Jackson, Freeport, that's really where we're beginning to see the start of what Beryl is going to be bringing in the rainfall. The winds will be worse closer in to the center itself when the eye begins to get more on land. So we haven't seen at least the powerful winds. We certainly have been beginning to see some of those measurements increase across the area, though, for sure. So our satellite imagery looking a little bit more lopsided, but still it's organized enough that it's a Category 1 hurricane. It is expected to be a Category 1 hurricane still around 7 o'clock in the morning. That's probably 4 to 5 hours after its landfall. And then when we see the track moving forward, we'll continue to see that it maintains some hurricane strength as it moves to the west side of Harris County. But by the time we get to the evening, we do expect it to be back down to a tropical storm with max winds about 45 miles an hour. And then when we get into tomorrow, it begins to weaken, so it'll slow down. So I got a lot of information on here, so let's just pause for a moment and kind of get caught up. If you can't read it, I'm going to kind of go through all this for you. We've got storm surge warnings for those folks along the coast. We have hurricane warnings for those folks near the coast, and especially where that landfall is going to be taking place in Matagorda or Brazoria County. Now, that is wind related. Same thing with the tropical storm warning. That's wind related, and if you're not under a hurricane warning, you're under a tropical storm warning, because we're going to see those winds anywhere from 40 to 70 miles an hour, even further inland. We also have a flood watch because of all the rain that we're looking at. That is all of southeast Texas. And then just near the coast, so our coastal counties, including Harris County, we do have a tornado watch, and that's just sort of to the east of where that landfall will also be taking place. So we're preparing for those strong winds. We're getting ready for the flooding to take place, and we're expecting some power loss. Here again is that imagery as we look to see what we're going to find at this landfall. We've been seeing the hurricane hunters constantly flying this storm. You'll see how they go back and forth, trying to get right through the center. They're using their instruments where they drop from the airplane and they take measurements as they fall, the dropson. Those have been used to gather all that data. And it was the hurricane hunter information that really confirmed that it was in fact a hurricane. And really right now we're beginning to see that rain make its way even further onshore. We've got, as said, the hurricane warning and also our tropical storm warning for our coastal counties. And then let's sort of dive into this a little bit closer. I was talking about if you're not under the hurricane warning, you're under the tropical storm warning. Well, we're kind of laying it out here for you. Sort of the brighter of the reds or the oranges almost is where we see the tropical storm warning. That's where the winds, and that's a big range of winds from 40 to 70 miles an hour. But that's what the definitions are of a tropical storm, so that's what those winds are expected. That eye is going to make its way from Matagorda Bay, probably end up going between Katy and downtown Houston. And as that eye kind of moves on through, or right over Katy perhaps, as that eye moves on through, that's where we'll see these stronger, closer to 60 and 70 mile an hour winds. And then away from that is where we'll see what's closer to 40. But all along the coast, though, those winds will be much stronger. Here's the flood watch that I was talking about. It's basically all of East Texas, going all the way up to the state line as well, because of all those heavy rains that we're looking for. And then I talked about that tornado watch. Looks like I had left out Montgomery County as well. It does include Montgomery County in the tornado watch, Liberty County, moving on over to the coastal counties as well, where we're seeing that landfall expected to take place. So continuing to see a lot of alerts, and now just sort of the bigger picture from the Weather Prediction Center. And this says tomorrow. That actually should be Monday is what we're talking about here, with that flooding possibilities I mentioned all the way up to the north portions of East Texas, and then that tornado threat as well. We've officially got the watch, but this is what the Storm Prediction Center is putting out. So very interesting things happening when we're looking at our Futurecast products now. Most of our modeling is beginning to pick up on this idea of even sliding a little bit further over to the east, and we're going to see that with this particular model. We'll be looking at that landfall around 2:30, probably closer to 2 a.m. Remember, as soon as that first edge of the eye wall hits the coast, that's when the Hurricane Center will identify that as making a landfall. So all of this rain between the eye and the edges here, that doesn't count as an actual landfall officially. The official landfall is when that eye reaches. So I would already argue that it's making its landfall now. It hasn't made it complete though, and that's probably going to be closer to 2 a.m. And as we talked about earlier, as late as 7 a.m., this could still be a hurricane and still around Interstate 10 with those winds. But look how we're even getting downtown Houston now within a possible sort of eye that'll be forming. So there might be a little bit of breaks in some of those rainstorms as it continues to wrap around. And then as we pull this away, this is going to be able to exit the area. This is what some of the good news for us is, that this is not going to be a stalling storm. It's not going to be something that stretches out over days. Certainly going to be a rough 12 to 16 hours for many of us, but it is just a one-day event. And by the time we get to 2:30 in the afternoon, you can see how much of this mess is well past the Fox 26 viewing area. We're just going to get a little bit of leftovers continuing to add to whatever the problems occur. Now, obviously, when we get some power lines knocked down, that's not going to be something that's just fixed in a couple hours. That takes a while to do that. So we're going to be sort of dealing with the aftermath of what happens, but the continuation of the storms is not going to happen. Look at these rainfall totals that we're going to be looking at as well. This is certainly going to add up. I think we're going to see this line here of the 10 inches or more. We've been using the basic preparations of 5 to 10 inches is what we want everyone to be ready for, and that's still a number that it's sounding good. Isolated spots though, 12 to 15 inches are going to be possible, and that's kind of what you see here with this line that's moving all the way through the western edges of Montgomery County, the western edges of Harris County, down through Wharton and all the way down to Palacios. Notice how quickly these numbers decrease as you move to the west, and then they spread out a little bit more over here to the east. So this is an area that, again, we'll be looking for plenty of rainfall overall. So a quick review here as we're wrapping up. The landfall definitely occurring tonight. Probably within 2 hours, that eye wall will begin to make its landfall. Be ready for street flooding. Just plan to stay where if you're in a safe place, just plan to stay where you are. There's going to be a chance for some tornadoes. There's going to be some chance for some powerful winds. So remember where your safe space is in your home. You want to get away from the windows. You want to get to an interior room as low as you can, as long as you're not flooding. And be ready to stay there as these powerful winds or even isolated tornadoes kind of move on through the area. We will expect as well a loss for power. So if you go to your safe space and you don't have any windows, take a flashlight with you. That might be a loss of power. I want you to be prepared for that if that happens to you. And quickly when we get to the afternoon, the weather itself will improve, and we're really just going to be dealing with the cleanup of what that's going to look like, whether it's picking up branches in your yard, or maybe it's going to be waiting for the street to lose the water that's been collected in the street, the flooding. Or maybe you're going to be sort of figuring out how to go for an extended period of time without power, depending on where you are. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. Like I said, within the next couple of hours, we'll expect that official landfall to happen, but we're already beginning to see the storm make its landfall as we speak. We want you to stay prepared. We want you to stay safe. Fox 26 will be here with you, keeping you updated. Remember, if you lose your television, because of a power loss, you can use your device, the Fox 26 News app, as well as the Fox 26 Weather app, will have our video coming out of our studio. So whatever we're doing here in the studio, you can get it on your device, and of course you'll be able to just use that battery. Hopefully you've got a way to keep that charged, and you'll be able to stay informed, whether you're using a cell tower or maybe your Wi-Fi as well will be backed up and you'll be able to use that. So I'll let you go for now. We'll be back though at 1 o'clock with another update and continuing to keep track of Beryl as it makes its landfall.